I am honored to be part of a studio that's been around for longer than I've been alive. I'm excited to see you guys in the comments, and I'm excited for the future of Volition.
Yo, I got some really bad news. On August 31st, 2023, Volition was taken out back and shot Old Yeller style. I made a community post about this, and to summarize what I said, it's unfortunate that people lost their jobs, but it was inevitable considering that they were on a downhill slope for the longest. In terms of financial success, Saints Row 3 was the last proficient installment before it went downhill, and even I could admit that there were a lot of players who had fun with the game. Then Saints Row 4 dropped. It failed to sell as many copies, probably. They didn't disclose the complete sales figures, so I'm gonna assume the worst, even though it's objectively more fun than Saints Row 3. And when Saints Row 2022 dropped, the fat bitch was definitely singing. Now I have 2 unreviewed games that were released before that proverbial nail in the coffin, but which one should I cover? Wait, the one that's in the title. Agents of Mayhem was dropped on August 15th, 2017, 2 years after Get Outta Hell was plopped out of Saints Row 4 like a Matryoshka doll, and to the surprise of no one, it was a major flop. The shit only sold around 300,000 copies. Now, to be fair, this was reported in 2018, so let's be generous and give it an extra 200,000 sales. That is still abysmal. For reference, Saints Row 2 blasted past 250,000 sales in the first month of its release. And that's not even including the PS3 or the PC sales, just Xbox. This brings up a couple of questions. First, what made consumers skip past Agents of Mayhem, and wasn't unwarranted? Well, starting with the former, Saints Row 3 and 4 happened, and it's branching off an already dying franchise, so yeah. As for the latter, that's what we're gonna find out in this video, so let's start with the story. The story of Agents of Mayhem is modeled after a Saturday morning cartoon show, so it's no surprise that it starts with a cheesy intro, theme song and all. During the intro, we see the first 3 agents available to us: Fortune, Hollywood, and Hardtack. Here we see the trio taking down some enemies, together, side by side. Okay, we'll talk about that later. They're fighting against the Legion, which stands for the League of Evil Oh, fuck off. Listen, I understand it fits the genre of the game, but I don't think I can handle another silly Volition story. But fine, whatever. During the fight, we see Dr. Babylon, the main antagonist, just standing there menacingly, and when his putty patrol is taken care of, he pouts and leaves, I guess. Wow, what a great first impression. Afterward, we're given a cutscene that's 3D rendered. Yeah, most of the story is told in a 2D art style, but sometimes we get 3D cutscenes. It's kinda jarring. We're introduced to Persephone, the leader of Mayhem, and her left-hand woman, Friday, the oracle of the organization. Persephone sends a trio from the intro into one of Babylon's lairs. Yeah, take note of how many layers that we see in this game. Just keep it in mind. For now, we could get some insight on the agents that are available to us. Starting with Fortune, she's a Colombian woman who likes to steal stuff. And that's about it in terms of her character. Next we have Hollywood. Before joining Mayhem, he was an actor, until he pulled an Alec Baldwin. I do not entirely understand how he was able to beat the case, but it's okay. I'm talking about Alec Baldwin, by the way. He's a self-absorbed macho douchebag just like every video game character who plays an actor. All 2 of them from personal memory at least. Hardtack is the last member of the squad. He's a designated African American of the group, a big nigga if you will, and all he wants to do is take out the Legion for the sake of revenge. Character depth be damned. We'll get to the rest of the agents later, but let's get the current mission out of the way first. The trio split off to cover ground and showcase their abilities, and after Hollywood messes up by shooting the big ball of something, they rendezvous to the robot charging station. The decision is made to find and take out Babylon together. Well, kind of. In Agents of Mayhem, you don't have all 3 teammates out at the same time. Instead, you play as one agent and you switch by using a D-pad. I'm very disappointed that they went in this direction, especially after seeing them fight together during the intro. Some would even call that false advertising. And I personally don't see much hope with the system, but let's see if it surprises me. Once we reach Baby Lotion, we throw hands until we remember that he's the main antagonist, and there's no way that we're just gonna beat the brakes out of him in the first mission. When he eventually escapes, the trio hits the jets because the lair has a self-destruct feature, and after we fuck around in the overworld, Babylon tells his cronies that he wants to capture a meteor that's currently in orbit so he can harness its power. Okay, sure. The cutscene also reveals that the leader of the Legion is a person by the name of Morningstar. Wow, he looks like something. I can't wait to see him in a boss fight though. We are gonna fight him, right? Right? Alright, anyways, here we are at the Ark, the headquarters of Mayhem. This is where you can customize your vehicles, create temporary abilities, purchase permanent upgrades, fight in the danger room, and most importantly, this is where you select your agents. And speaking of agents, I think this is the best time for you to meet the rest of them. That's right, all of them. Now, although some of these agents are unlocked by playing the story, they were done in a way that was inconsequential to the plot. So here we go. Starting with Rama, she's an Indian woman who has beef with the Legion because they decided to spread super AIDS across her country. Her personality is lacking, even in her own missions. All we get is that she really wants to find that cure. Moving on, we have Lazarus, a chick who was brought back from near death from one of the villains. I don't think the story really elaborates on that, but either way, she's now powered by nanomachines, son. She spends most of her time trying to remember her old self, what she used to eat, what she used to do for fun, etc, etc. Up next is a familiar face, Agent Safeword, aka Kinsey Kensington. I would be happy, but having to deal with her in Saints Row 4 genuinely made me want to chew glass. She's one of the 4 characters from the Saints Row universe, and her story in this game is quite similar to the original one. Next we have Daisy. There's probably a chick on Instagram that you follow who looks exactly like her. She totes a minigun, and because she's a roller derby chick, you'll never see her without her blades, even when she's driving a car. Daisy's mission involves her retracing her steps after a night of drinking. Okay, I'm gonna nitpick here. If she was out partying or whatever, then why did she bring her minigun? It seems like it would get in the way of her binge drinking. It's like she knew she was gonna have to shoot at some robots, and civilians too, but that's her dumbass fault for standing damn near nutting distance in front of a gunfight. Also, I just rewatched her intro and it dawned on me that she pummeled multiple bikers for no reason. Sure, one of them bumped into her, but I don't think that warrants a Batman Arkham Asylum style ass whooping. Am I gonna have to defend the rights of a group of nameless characters that I'll probably forget about by the time I finish this sentence? Next up is the backbone of the Saints Row franchise, good old Johnny Gatto, who acts like how Johnny Gat would if he was a copper instead. Not surprising. Alright, I'm gonna power through the rest. Braddock is basically a carbon copy of Bangalore. They look similar, they're both military chicks, their ult is the same, it's disgustingly wait a minute.
2 Google searches later.
Huh. That's a surprise. The designated bitch Pierce is next, and in this universe, he brought the original Stillwater gangs together. I can admit that there's some comedy in that. I mean, I'm not gonna laugh because Saints Row 3, 4, and the reboot are still fresh in my mind, but there's some funny in here. Moving on, Oleg is now Iceman Bobby Drake in this universe. After him, I unlocked Jewel. She's an Italian engineer who cares about her father or something. Oni is next on the list, a suit-clad Japanese man with a deep Japanesey voice. Take a wild guess on what his personality is. Redcard is next, and the only thing of note I have to say about him is that on his trivia section on the wiki, it says that he is a fan of Butterfly Princess. I don't know what that means. And last but not least, we have... oh boy. Charizard, and her gimmick is that very little is known about her. That's a great way to get the player to like a character, I guess. And that's all 15 of the agents. Now you might be thinking that I'm being too blasé with these guys, but there's not much going on here. They're basic, stereotypical archetypes. Even their special episodes leave a lot to be desired. Regardless, we can now get back to the story. We're tasked with taking out Hammersmith, a Legion lieutenant who likes to hurt people and blow things up. And that's seriously it when it comes to his character. Eventually, we get into a boss fight, a very eventful one at that. It's got the works, like shooting at the boss, shooting at the thingamajig until you can shoot at the boss again, and death lasers. It's everything I could have asked for. When we get his health bar down, he pulls a Babylon and retreats, and now we have to enter another Legion lair. Great. We encounter him again, and we get into another boss fight. At least there's a lot more going on this time.
Behold, my Hammersmith dark matter energy balls!
Now that's just gross.
You gotta shoot his balls before they hit you!
After we shoot at his balls, he blasts off like Team Rocket, concluding the operation. I can't say that I'm impressed. Seriously, the only thing that we learned is that this universe is filled with simplistic and one-dimensional characters, which is fine as long as the gameplay isn't terrible, and well, it's certainly okay so far. Let's move on. Persephone gives us a rundown on the next lieutenant, Gaunt, who quickly shows that he has more personality than Hammerhead over there. He's an artist who uses his music to hypnotize his audience, to raise Legion's ESG score. Funnily enough, there's a mission where he pulls a psyop, which I'm having a hard time understanding since he's a part of a terrorist organization that toured across the world eliminating millions of civilians. Like, how could they possibly turn it around? Then again, we had Waco, Ruby Ridge, Move bombing, Middle East bombings, and yet people still trust the state. So you know what, it's valid. Fast forward to the boss fight and we end up knocking the autotune out of him, ending the operation. You might get the feeling that I'm running through the story with little regard for detail, but there's not much to work with. Shit, at least in Saints Row 3 we had to use multiple schemes just to take out one gang. Here it's just, hey, stop that guy, and 15 minutes later, mission accomplished. It's not really fulfilling, it turns the bad guys into jobbers. Hopefully Steel Toe can turn it around.
You know, if you want to reward me, you could always give me a kiss. Yay!
Okay, never mind. Steel Toe's a dude from Barbados who is addicted to cybernetically upgrading his body, and as you can tell from the clip, he's so technologically augmented that he wants to smash an AI chick. And this is, well, these are Aisha. They're a K-pop group, so that's my motivation to take him out. However, all we were able to do was kill Steel Toe during their wedding. This turns Aisha into a crazy bitch hell-bent on revenge. Well, the main one. The red one, I think. In my opinion, this is probably the best story arc in the game since it actually fleshes out an antagonist for a change. We see how a woman becomes so unhinged that she beefs with herself. It's relatively interesting, and if it wasn't for my undying hatred of K-pop, I probably would have liked it. Now, before we get to the Babylon arc, there's one more lieutenant to go through, and her name is Adrienne. She's a crazy bitch, that's about it. Alright, now we can move on. So here we are, the final stretch. And remember that meteor that Babylon wanted? Well, he got it anyway, despite the amount of work that Mayhem put in.
Neat.
Somewhere in that time frame, we were also given a backstory on him, better late than never I guess. In the last mission, Babylon wreaks havoc across Fun Korea and we have to hop through dimensions to stop him. When we enter his reality, he activates Ito Tensei and brings back all of his lieutenants. A boss fight occurs, the final one at that, and after about 10 minutes, Babylon is defeated once and for all. While the agents are making their way back to the home base, Babylon is confronted and dragged by a character that we have not seen in the main story until now, signaling a possible story DLC or sequel in the future. I think it's safe to say that this is all we're getting in terms of Agents of Mayhem lore. Roll credits, woohoo! That's so depressing. I guess we can move on to the critiquing section. Starting with the story, it's nothing special. I'm not going to say that it's downright terrible, but my lord, it is clear that Volition had lost its ability to get players to care about their world building. One issue that you've probably noticed throughout the main operations is that it's mainly focused on the non-playable members of Mayhem and the Legion. And what I mean by that is that the cutscenes will only feature Friday, Persephone, the shopkeepers, and the antagonists, excluding the first mission. The agents, on the other hand, are relegated to simplistic responses, so all of them can have something to say regardless of which one you choose. This was probably done to alleviate some stress from the design team since there are about 15 agents to choose from, and it would probably take a lot of time to create a cutscene for every combination of 3 agents. On one hand, it is understandable, but on the other hand, it takes away from the story since you're not seeing the characters you're playing as through a cutscene. It feels like you're just an accessory to the story as opposed to the main part, even in the last mission where Friday isn't sure of the fate of the agents.
So, are they dead?
Oh, they're back. They're back in Seoul.
They couldn't even show you the agents that were deployed in that mission. It just lists all of them on the screen. And it's even funnier considering that Gat is a DLC character, so his name is not even there. As for the villains, besides Aisha, they weren't really that special. Babylon specifically was too much of a pushover, and the choice to have us not even fight the real ringleader is baffling. Moving on to the agents, like I said, they're stereotypical, and there's not much to them depth-wise. At least they have their own special operations, where they get their own story with cutscenes. Unfortunately, even these have their own issues. Don't get me wrong, I was interested in some of them, like okay, let me rephrase that. You as a player might be interested in some of these special operations, but most of the agents only have 2 personalized missions, and that's not enough to build a character, especially when your story isn't picking up the slack. For example, in Daisy's arc, we found out that she has a softer and vulnerable side. Also, she's gay, and that's what really surprised me, that a woman who acts and talks like her plays for the other team. Or both teams rather. The problem I had with this special operation is that we're just given a crumb in terms of character work. Just one mission where we get to learn more about her without having to look in a database. And hers is the best out of all of them. A lot of the rest are just like Pierce's, where he's just doing time trials and we don't learn much about him. Is it because he's already an established character? Well, screw that, this is a different dimension, universe, or whatever. I want to know what gave the Pierce here the courage to resolve the beef in Stillwater. Wait, was his origin supposed to be a joke? Were you trying to make a funny Volition? Fuck you. Once you complete certain special operations, you're rewarded with team operations. Here's how it goes. You'll get the franchise Force mission when you finish the operation for Hollywood, Fortune, and Hardtack. Bombshell's mission is unlocked when you finish the operation for Red Card, Rama, and Jewel. Carnage, fuck me, that's a stupid name. That's Daisy, Yeti, and Braddock. And Firing Squad is Pierce, Oni, and Sababla. The DLC agents get no team operation because the game was hemorrhaging money at the time, but at least the main agents get more shine. Now, does Volition use their opportunity wisely? Of course not. Not much is learned about the agents or their relationship with each other, and they all take place in this bumaclot lair. Firing Squad makes you go through a lair 3 times in a row. Are you fucking me? Now, the only special operation I want to talk about in detail is the one for Franchise Force. The mission itself is routine, but the ending has me perplexed. So basically, what had happened was that Hollywood, Fortune, and Hardtack were sent to a lair, what a surprise, and they decided to live stream their raid. Once they cleared it out, Fortune found a DVD that Hollywood wanted because it's very compromising. It's an HBO tape, you know? Now, Fortune only had beef with Hollywood because of the name he came up with for the team. Why? Who cares? During the latter half of this mission, she comes around and eventually embraces it, squashing any beef that these two had. But for whatever reason, when she had the VHS in her possession, Fortune streamed it to their viewers. Immediately, I thought, what an asshole. I get that Hollywood is a celebrity douchebag, but that is not a justification for her actions, especially when they're just now starting to like each other. Wouldn't her still being reluctant to the team name make more sense as a reason to do that? I get that I'm looking into this a little too much, but I think I'm asking a valid question here. Besides that, there's a far more pressing issue here. Now bear with me for a moment, I'm gonna have to show you the tape. Now don't worry, it's not that crazy. You might have to worry about your parents watching, I have to worry about my monetization. I'm taking a bigger risk here.
Hey, I don't think this would be of interest to our viewers.
I disagree.
You got the goods?
I've got the goods right here. You got the cash?
Here it is. You want to take a shot at this money?
Hands off, Hollywood. We were just getting to the good part.
I knew you were a cop. Prepare to be interrogated.
This is Detective Hardbottom. I've been compromised. Requesting backup. Okay, nothing left to see.
Stop it, Hollywood.
Detective, your backup has arrived. Don't worry, I'll get your 6.
Just got a call from Carol in HR. She wants to see you all in her office.
In case you're having trouble with the implication here, I'll explain. Hollywood is going to smuggle that African-American salami. While you have that image in your head, I want to ask you a question. What do you think his sexual orientation is? Did you guess gay? Well, you're wrong, you bigot. He's actually pansexual, at least according to the writer.
He is pansexual.
There you go.
Into everything. Likes anything pretty.
I have an issue with this, and it's not that I'm afraid of butt pirates, that's the video game character's business. I just think that Jennifer Campbell did a poor job expressing that aspect of him. She says that Hollywood likes anything pretty, but the only quote-unquote evidence of that is him in an adult film, barring any potential idle dialogue because there's no transcript and I'm not about to sift through that. And I put evidence in quotations because the implication that was made during his intro and special operation was that he was desperate to be famous. That bump and grind tape didn't seem like a passion project. It felt like he was down bad for clout and or money. Many such cases. Yeah, sorry to break it to you Coomers, but spicy film stars aren't usually attracted to each other when they're slapping meat. Also, look, I'm just gonna say it. I find it very hard to believe that Hollywood is a skin flute enthusiast. I'm not saying that all rainbow people have to act like James Charles, but I am saying that we're suspending a lot of disbelief here. And that goes for Soldier 76 too while we're at it. My name is Soldier 76 and I love penis. Get the fuck out of here. Alright, digressing. It just seems like a quick and sloppy J.K. Rowling adjacent slap on. And what's worse is that this sort of problem keeps happening, especially with the database. It just seems like there's a separate writing team for this section since it looks so disconnected from the story. For example, Friday and Braddock are dating, and that's considered the worst kept secret, when in reality, it's quite the opposite. Also, I'm sensing a pattern here. Why does it feel like everybody here is gay? Alright, look, I'm not expecting the writers to bust out Aaron Ehas's chart for every character here, but you gotta give me something since this is a single player story, because the gameplay can only do so much. It's not bad, but it's certainly lacking. It's your run-of-the-mill shoot and smack bad guys out of the way until the ultimate is filled kind of game. Some agents are better at at taking out certain enemies than others, but that's really it. I have to say, I think the choice to have the one agent system was a huge mistake because it makes the game feel super empty, and I don't think it fits the overall style of the game. Imagine if it was 3 agents out in the field at the same time instead, and you could switch seamlessly, like Sonic Boom but functional. This allows the players to experiment to see which agent combo is the most fun. Seriously, it has the word mayhem in its title, but it rarely feels like shit's getting chaotic. Matter of fact, if you take a step back and really think about what this game is, you'll notice how strange of a concept it is. This is a single player hero selector that's open world, like Overwatch but offline. This could work, but you would need to give the player a lot to do post-story, and they failed to do that. See, after beating the game and completing the special operations, you can partake in Radiant quests, including but not limited to shutting off a danger ball by platforming, driving a whip to a destination, blowing up a Legion vehicle, and a godforsaken lair operation. Alright, if it's not clear at this point, I will happily spell it out for you here. In this game, you will spend damn near the majority of your time in a lair. Almost every mission has one, and it makes AOM very repetitive. To be fair, the rooms are changed around, but regardless, you have an overworld map that's not that bad. So why would you have the player spend a significant amount of time in what's basically a Pokemon mystery dungeon? Look, there's just flat out not enough to do for a game that was made by the people who created Saints Row 2, where after beating the game, you were left with a bunch of activities and a diverse map to explore. Shit, even Saints Row 3 had more stuff to do. And don't you give me that Agents of Mayhem wasn't a full price game. If they weren't so busy trying to find new ways to call their characters gay, they would have had enough time to come up with new ways to attract and retain their audience. But like I said, this was a weird game, even weirder considering the time of its release. The Saints Row series was in a downturn, and they decided to branch out with this. They could have at least had a co-op mode. The style is screaming for it, and the developers that are known for cooperative play just chose to skip it this time around. But for some reason, it has online challenges. Again, this is a single player game, and it has online challenges. And the funniest part here is that the servers are shut off, meaning that you can no longer partake in these online challenges, which completely shuts off any chance to 100% the achievements, a stupid yet common issue in video games. Although it really symbolizes what AOM is, a product with a half-baked and confusing identity. Overall, the story, meh, the characters, meh, the gameplay, strange choice but meh nonetheless, and a standalone game like that is not going to bring in the big bucks, so it's no surprise that Volition got shut down. They lost the plot, and that's all I have to say. RIP in peace, Volition. See you later.